Samsung 990 Pro promises next-gen PCIe 4.0 speeds up to 7450 megabytes per second and over 1.4 million IOPS. Either we've reached storage nirvana, or we're just paying premium money for numbers you'll never feel. On paper, it's a monster. 1 to 4 terabytes of TLC NAND, claimed 50% better power efficiency than the 980 Pro, a 5-year warranty, and even a heatsink version with RGB for your flex build. Sounds like the perfect upgrade for gaming rigs creators, even PS5. But here's the thing. Those big headline numbers can be very misleading in real life. I actually dropped this into my main editing PC and PS5 and hammered it for a solid month with benchmarks, large file transfers, and daily use. I've put the direct link to check current pricing in the description. But before you click anything, let me show you what I discovered after weeks of testing. Now, what does the Samsung 990 Pro actually promise? It is marketed as a top-tier PCIe 4.0 NVMe SSD with up to 7450 MB reads and 6900 MB writes, elite random performance for faster game loads and snappier apps, up to 50% better power efficiency than the previous 980 Pro, high endurance with up to 2400 TBW, and a 5-year limited warranty. Sounds incredible, right? Basically the last SSD you'll ever need if you believe the box. But here's where things get interesting. When you dig past the marketing slides and synthetic benchmarks, the real-world story is a lot more nuanced. Reality check. They claim up to 7450 MB sequential read speeds. What you actually get is, yes, around 7.3 to 7.4 GBs in Crystal Disk Mark or ATTO, if you're on a proper PCIe 4.0 x4 slot. But in daily use, your Windows boot time and app launches feel maybe 5–10% faster than a good mid-range NVMe. And almost no different from other high-end drives like the WD Black SN850X. Here's why. Most tasks are limited by random performance at low Q depths, not those insane headline numbers at Q depth 32 that nobody hits outside lab tests. They claim up to around 1.4 M to 1.5 M IOPS random performance. What you actually get in real applications is closer to a few 100,000 IOPS at realistic Q depths. Games loading, project files opening, Chrome with 1,000,000 tabs all feel fast, but not night and day versus cheaper PCIe 4.0 SSDs. The marketing focuses on best-case synthetic scenarios that only benchmarking nerds will ever see. They claim 50% better power efficiency than the 980 Pro. Reality. In my testing and what multiple review sites measured, under heavy sustained workloads, the 990 Pro is definitely more efficient, but it still runs hot. Without a heatsink, I saw temps climb into the mid-70s Celsius during long 4K footage copies and big Steam library moves. That is not instant danger, but it is enough to trigger throttling in some cramped cases or laptops. In a PS5 or with a decent motherboard heatsink, it behaves much better, but it is not the cool running miracle the marketing might make you think. They position it as the ultimate gaming SSD. Let's be real here. I timed actual game load screens versus a decent budget PCIe 4.0 drive. We're talking differences of half a second, sometimes literally within the margin of error. In a PS5, the 990 Pro passes Sony's speed check easily and loads games fast, but it is not magically transforming your console compared to any other good Gen 4 drive that meets the spec. The plot twist is that for pure gaming, you're paying a premium for improvements you mostly see in benchmarks, not on screen. And finally, reliability. Early on, some users reported weird smartware reporting and rapid percentage drops, echoing trauma from the 980 Pro firmware drama. After digging through multiple investigation sites and long-term user reports, plus updating to the latest firmware, I didn't see catastrophic issues. Health readings stabilized and no data loss in my tests. Still, it's a reminder that even big brands are not immune to firmware oops moments. Let's break down the key areas. Performance. For heavy creators moving 4K or 8K footage, the 990 Pro does shine. In my 500 GB mixed media copy test, it sustained over 2.53.0 GBs for a big chunk of the transfer before the SLC cache filled, and speeds dipped into the 1 to 1.5 GBs range. That's still solid, but here's what nobody tells you. A lot of high-end competitors show very similar behavior. You're buying top tier, but not some magical new class of speed. Thermals and build. The bare drive is a standard M.2 2280 stick. The heatsink version adds a low-profile cooler with a bit of RGB flair. Under a motherboard heatsink, it felt warm to the touch but not alarming. However, in an open slot with no heatsink, sustained writes pushed it close to throttling territory. What the marketing doesn't mention is that if your airflow is trash or you shove this into a thin laptop without proper cooling, you might not see those pretty benchmark numbers for long. Endurance and reliability. Endurance ratings of around 600 TBW for 1 TB, 1200 TBW for 2 TB, and up to 2400 TBW for 4 TB are very respectable. For most people, that is many years of heavy use. User reviews after Samsung pushed firmware updates show far fewer complaints about rapid wear than at launch. Still, if you buy one, first thing you should do is install Samsung Magician, update the firmware, and check health. That extra 5 minutes can save you from tech roulette. Software and extras. Samsung Magician is actually a strong point. Easy cloning, secure erase, performance benchmarks, and firmware updates all in one. No sketchy drop-shipped mystery software here. The main red flag is not fakes, but pricing and overhype. In a lot of regions, the 990 Pro is noticeably more expensive than similarly fast drives from WD, Crucial, or Sabrent. So, verdict time. Is the Samsung 990 Pro worth the investment in 2025? I'd call it recommended with context. If you're a creator, power user, or you want a premium, well-supported SSD for your main OS drive or PS5, and you can catch it on sale, it absolutely earns its spot. You get top-tier Gen 4 performance, strong endurance, mature firmware, and good software. The downside: if you're just gaming or browsing, the real-world difference versus a cheaper PCIe 4.0 SSD is tiny, and paying a big premium for half-second faster load times is, honestly, expensive confusion. So, worth it if you value reliability, top performance, and plan to hammer your drive. Skip the full-price impulse buy if you are on a budget or only do light tasks. If this review saved you from wasting money or helped you figure out if the 990 Pro is actually worth it, I've put the link to check current pricing and read more reviews in the description. And hey, if you do decide to buy through my link, it helps fund these deep dive investigations without costing you a cent extra. Drop your experience with Samsung SSDs down below, especially if you've lived through firmware drama. Hit like if you found this useful, subscribe for more no BS tech breakdowns, and check out my next video where I compare this directly against a cheaper Gen 4 drive to see if you can really feel the difference. Stay savage out there, and I'll see you in the next one.